Sports often mimic society. If you look back at different eras in sports and entertainment, in most cases, the identity of the league is a direct reflection of society at that period of time. Back in the late 90s, the WWF, it was viewed as edgy, it was viewed as over the top, it was in your face. Middle fingers, crotch chopping, asking the audience if they were ready to suck it. We started seeing players in the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball. They started emulating what they were seeing on Monday nights in the WWF. What Vince McMahon and his roster of wrestlers were doing was emulating society. Back in the late 90s, society was edgy, it was graphic. 1969, Woodstock was all about peace and love. 1999, Woodstock was fire and violence. Sports leagues, they adapt their image to whatever is mainstream throughout the culture. Society is edgy, athletes are edgy. Society is gravitating towards tough men. Leagues market their toughest players. The biggest stars in the NBA throughout the 90s, they were all tough dudes. Michael Jordan, he had a reputation of being an asshole. Charles Barkley, he told you up front, I am not your role model. Kobe Bryant, tough dude. It's no different today than it was back then. Leagues like the NBA are still emulating society. The problem is the segment of the population the NBA has chosen to emulate. In terms of talent and skill, I don't know if there's another generation of players that is more gifted than the players that we see now in the modern NBA. The league is competitively balanced. Go look at the standings right now in both the Eastern and Western Conference, especially the West. The Western Conference is stacked. When stars are healthy, the product on the court as good as it's ever been. But for some reason, people are not watching. People are not gravitating to the NBA. Last month, the All-Star Game set record low ratings. Again, the last 3 years, ratings for the NBA Finals have reached huge embarrassing failure status. For the casual NBA fan, the regular season has become meaningless. I think a big part of the problem in the NBA, fans cannot relate to star players. One of the reasons they can't relate is the mentality of superstar NBA players. There's just no other way to say it. The NBA is soft. One thing most normal people don't respect is men being pussies. Most people, they blame the players, but NBA players only hold part of the responsibility here. This soft mentality prevalent in the NBA, it is a direct result of the leadership of Adam Silver, or in this case, the lack of leadership. Organizations often adopt the personality of their leader. Adam Silver is weak. He refuses to stand up to China. 3 years ago, he refused to stand up to his own players. He allowed LeBron James to baptize the entire league in the filthy woke bath. The NBA has never recovered. Last night, Charles Barkley, he was the big interview on 60 Minutes. They talked about the effect that NIL is having on college sports. Charles Barkley, he doesn't like the fact that college athletes are now being paid. I couldn't disagree more. He thinks NIL ruins the parity in college sports. I don't think there's ever been parity in college sports. The major programs, they have always gotten the best players. They've always been dominant, mainly because they've always had the money to pay the best players. The only thing NIL did was make it legal to pay them. The focus of the interview shifted towards the modern NBA, more specifically, the mentality of modern NBA players. Charles Barkley used Kevin Durant as an example of the problem with modern NBA players. He called Kevin Durant an abject failure because he's never won a title being the guy, being the man. Charles Barkley has a point here. This criticism is fair, but it's that word right there, criticism. Listen to what Charles Barkley says about modern NBA players and criticism. Roll the film.
Kevin Durant.
He's very sensitive, great player. He's part of that generation who think he can't be criticized. He's never looked in the mirror and says, man, was that a fair criticism?
We're in agreement. Today's players are a little more sensitive to criticism than your generation.
That would be an understatement.
Let me ask you something. How many of you are exempt from criticism at your job? When you do something at work that your boss doesn't like or agree with, how many of you are allowed to throw a bitch fit when he criticizes you? I can remember times when my boss would chew my ass for one reason or another. I was not allowed to tell him, no one gives a shit about your opinion, even though I thought that. I wasn't allowed to tell him he doesn't know what he's talking about, even though I thought that. That is, if I wanted to keep my job anyway. Charles Barkley's absolutely right. Modern NBA players walk around with this sense of entitlement. They have this belief that they're untouchable, they're exempt from criticism. How many normal people can relate to that? None. Hell, former NBA players can't relate to it. Now, how did Kevin Durant respond to Charles Barkley? For starters, he shouldn't have responded at all because Charles Barkley was 100% right in what he said. Kevin Durant is a once-in-a-generation talent. Those types of players, they don't come to you, you come to them. Steph Curry's not flying all over the country chasing championship rings. If you want to win with Steph Curry, you take your ass to Golden State. It is the opposite with Kevin Durant. He has never been the guy, never will be the guy because he doesn't have the mentality of a leader. I like Kevin Durant, but I can't relate to him because he is mentally soft. Charles Barkley just said, Kevin Durant thinks that he is immune to criticism. How does he respond? By reinforcing the point Charles Barkley was making. Check it out for yourself. How dare you say I'm sensitive? I will prove I'm not sensitive by getting on Twitter and showing you just how sensitive I really am. Kevin Durant might claim that he doesn't respect Charles Barkley, but he damn sure seems to be bothered by him. In a follow-up tweet, Kevin Durant claimed that he's bothered by greats from past generations that are jealous of him. Dude, Charles Barkley ain't jealous. He's making more money in television than he ever made in his NBA career. The reason I think Charles Barkley is so hard on modern NBA players, just like us, he hates what the league has become. He was part of a generation that paved the way for guys like Kevin Durant. The greats from the 90s, 2000s, they are responsible for the growth of the NBA. They made it possible for superstar players to make $35, $40, $50 million a year. And what do modern NBA players do for that money? They sit games because they're tired. They miss games over a sinus infection or because they have an ankle boo-boo. They engage in a war with their own fan base. This is the only business where the employees fight with the customers. Last night, the Mavericks, they were in Charlotte to play the Hornets. Season, it's over for Charlotte. If things continue at this pace, the season will soon be over for Dallas. Midway through the third quarter, there was a routine foul call. This happens all the time in the NBA. Foul is called. Players, they'll take a few seconds to get set for the inbound pass. The game resumes. That is not what happened last night in Charlotte. You see, Kyrie Irving, he had something more important to address. He walks about 50 feet all the way to the other end of the court. He wasn't chasing the basketball. He wasn't getting a good stretch in before play resumed. He wasn't arguing with an opposing player on the bench. Once again, a superstar NBA player was engaging in a battle with a fucking spectator. Watch for yourself.
And Kyrie's got a problem with one of the fans.
Kyrie Irving had this dude thrown out of the arena. This is an ongoing trend in the modern NBA. Fan heckles opposing star player gets his feelings hurt, fan is ejected. Fan tells star player he sucks, star player starts crying, fan is ejected. We've seen this with Russell Westbrook, we've seen this with LeBron James. Emotional, grown men getting fans, paying customers, thrown out of the arena over words. Again, the players do not hold all the responsibility here. This also falls on Adam Silver. Who do you think gave the power to the players to have fans kicked out of the arena? Adam Silver. I guess it kind of makes sense. If modern NBA players have more power than their billionaire employers, why should they not have more power than the paying customer? If this were allowed to happen back in the 90s, NBA arenas, they would have been empty. Reggie Miller was verbally brutalized by fans in Madison Square Garden. Michael Jordan, he wouldn't allow his kids to attend games in Salt Lake City because the fan base was so hostile towards him. What qualifies as hostile behavior in the modern NBA? What does a fan have to do to get kicked out of the arena? I will allow Kyrie Irving to explain it himself. Roll the film.
He just called me out my name, so I just had to make sure I looked him eye to eye, see if he would say it to my face. You know, a lot of fans say things when you turn your head or they say it in the crowd because they can get away with it, but majority of the time, if I could look a fan in the face and see if they really want to say that to me, and, you know, so he yelled it and I handled it. So
he called me out my name. What the hell does that even mean? He called me Katie instead of Kyrie. He called me Irv instead of Irving. That's all it takes to get tossed from the arena? I hope modern NBA players never attend a UFC event. They would need a therapist on call to properly handle the emotional trauma. This should never happen. The leash on fan behavior should not be this short. Now, I don't think NBA fans have the right to personally attack players verbally. There's a big difference, though, in heckling and going after someone's family. At the same time, NBA players, they need to toughen the hell up. This league has a serious relatability problem. It's having a devastating impact on television ratings. You want to know why ratings for the All-Star Game set record lows every year? We can't relate to NBA All-Stars. Like I said in the beginning, the NBA is emulating culture, victim culture. We spent an entire week last week highlighting the biggest victims in America. And here we are, again, starting this week, highlighting the victims in the NBA. I was actually starting to like Kyrie Irving. I think it took a lot of courage and sacrifice with the stand that he took last year against Fauci fucking. But what I can't respect is having some spectator thrown out of the arena because he called me out my name. Putting respect on your name, that is not required. Respect is earned. There are a lot of people who don't have respect for modern NBA players. And to be honest with you, they have not been given a reason to respect them. Promoting mythical racism, Draymond Green wanting to create a player-driven media because he feels like sports media criticizes him too much. The attention-seeking behavior of LeBron James. Klay Thompson lecturing fans in Boston because they cursed at Draymond Green. Multiple star players having fans ejected from the arena. Load management. My God, this league has a lot of problems. It's no wonder modern NBA players are not respected. This all starts at the top with Adam Silver. The NBA is in desperate need of leadership. They have an opportunity coming up with the negotiations for the collective bargaining agreement. Adam Silver, he has got to take the power away from the players and give it back to NBA owners. It's not going to be easy. The players are going to put up a fight. More than likely, if this happens, there will be a lockout. If this happens, I have zero faith in Adam Silver to make this happen. This dude does not have the balls to stand up to the players, but this has got to happen for the NBA to return to prominence. Fans have had enough of the bullshit. Television networks are fed up with the dismal ratings. The NBA's in trouble. But give me your thoughts. Charles Barkley, BLASTS, Kevin Durant, and star players in the modern NBA. Do you agree that the NBA is soft? Also, let me know what you think of Kyrie Irving ejecting a fan because he called me out my name. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.